All right, good evening and welcome. If you're watching by live stream, welcome as well. This is our Puerto Rico mission team report, and we're excited to share what God did on that trip. It was about just over a month ago, and we wanted to make sure that Pastor Wade was back from his trip in Isaiah and be able to share with you. So I'm going to open up in a word of prayer, and then we'll introduce the team and show some pictures. We've got a video a little bit later on that you'll be able to see, but we'll talk about some of those things before the video so that they'll make a little bit more sense to you. So let's open with a word of prayer as we begin tonight. Father, thank you for your goodness to us, your grace to us, for our partnership with One Church in Comerío, for the gospel that is going forth, and the opportunity we have had to support that work. And we know that they are praying for us in the partnership as well. And we thank you for the kingdom, even as we were reminded this morning of the kingdom of God at work in our midst because of what Christ has done in fulfilling the promise. And so as we share tonight, would you be glorified and receive the praise for what we are able to share, for the work that you have done in us and through us. I thank you for East Brent and their faithful support and their prayers and giving for many, many years in our existence here as a local church. Would you continue to bless as the gospel goes forth here and to the ends of the earth? We ask in Jesus' name, amen. All right, I want to take a moment and introduce our team. They're sitting up here to my right on the front row, and you guys can either stand or wave or something. You'll get to hear from some of them, if they're brave enough, a little bit later when they want to share some things. So we'll start at the end with Jasmine, Jasmine Cano, and this was your first trip with us? First mission trip? Sydney Grace Englehart, your first trip as well, I believe, yes? Scott Whitson, you know Scott from the kitchen. Not his first trip, first with us, but not his first trip. Shelby, my oldest, and this was your second with us and third to Puerto Rico. Julia, my almost youngest, first trip. My father, Frank Witter, first trip with East Brent. I don't know how many trips you've taken, lots and lots. He and we were concerned because of him being a vegan, and he's ready to go back. So Wade, no worries. If he can survive, and you've been and you've survived, so it's good. And then our couple together, Lisa and Greg Gilmore, first trip and first with us, and Christy Riles, not first trip with us, family down there. Christy's partner in crime for driving. She did a great job helping drive during the week. If you want to learn how to drive and take your retest for DMV, go to Puerto Rico. If you can do that there, and it's not England, it's not left and right, it's the same side, but the roads are not quite as wide. So if you can drive there, you can drive anywhere. We had a great team, 10 of us going down, and the Lord blessed in a big way. We were thankful to be together, to serve together. You know, when things happen on a mission trip, if you've been before, you've heard reports before, things will happen, and you have to roll with it, and this team did just that. They were easy to lead, servant's heart all throughout, and you're going to enjoy seeing some of the pictures in the video in a little bit. Let me share some pictures and some things with you before we go through the video, because it will make more sense when you see the video in a few moments. The first picture, if you can put up, Jose, and did I get it so it shows on the back slide? Good, so I can see on the back as well. This was a group picture. This was at El Yunque, which is the rainforest. We try to take a day to have a day just to go out. If you've been on trips before, it's a lot of hard work, and we're not there to only work alongside, but to see God's creation. And they have a rainforest on the east side of the island that is just beautiful. And we took what day was it? Thursday? Was Thursday our day? So we flew in on a Saturday, had Sunday worship, and then had that week. So we took on Thursday our day trip to go and visit El Yunque, and you'll see some more slides and videos of that in a little bit. But this is our team picture. It was not very rainy in the rainforest this go around, but it was still pretty to behold there. Next slide, please. There's a couple different ways you can come. Pastor Jorge has teams come either in on a Friday or Saturday. Most of the trips I've served on and been on is a Saturday to Saturday, and I like that because your first time after, Saturday can be a long day traveling, and it was, but your first time after being there and getting settled that night is with God's people in worship. And I think that's important to start out the week. And so this is at One Church Comerío. A few reminders about this. Back earlier in the spring, I mentioned to you they were able to pay off their note. They own this building and at this campus. They are debt-free. God's been very good to them in that way. And then they've done a renovation. So it was also within this last 6 months that they kind of redid their stage area. Their baptismal, you see that kind of off to the side in the middle. Their baptismal is now inside of the building, not outside in a tub. And so that's also a positive in what they did in their renovation. But we were able to be together, and during this time, there were a couple things that were great about our time of worship. There were several other teams there with Send Relief. That's one of the serving arms of the Southern Baptist Convention. And there are other teams that were not there in Comerío, but were near enough by that for their worship time, that's where they came. That's where they sent them, was to One Church. And so they worshiped alongside of us. Before Jorge preached, there was a lady in the church who he kind of did an interview, but sharing her testimony. And you'll hear and see more about this in a minute. This is not unique. Pastor Jorge does this often as he is continuing to share the gospel there. It's important that not only his people, but those that are coming and visiting hear from others in the area. Pastor Jorge grew up there, not a believer, came to the States, and through different things that God used, became a believer and felt God's call to go back. That is his story and why he is back in his home city there in Comerío. And so there are many people that know him prior to his conversion and now see him and see a big difference and see the fruit that God's doing through that work there. And as he continues to share the gospel and others come to Christ, this is an important facet in what they're doing there to hear from their people. More about that in a little bit. Next picture, please. On the wall on the side of their church is their phrase. We have the phrase, get right, get in, get out. Similarly, they have a phrase like that as well. It's not too different than ours. Basically, it's saying to reach, to restore, and to send. To reach, to restore, and to send. Like-minded, when Pastor Wade was searching and praying, and it seemed that our opportunities in Guatemala were not going to be what they were at one time. The Lord directed us to One Church and to Pastor Jorge, and there's a lot of like-mindedness in what is happening in the mission. That's on the side of their church inside, and a reminder of what their mission is and what they do to exist. Next picture. We got to enjoy meals together right after that Sunday morning worship. We had fried chicken, the first of, I don't know how many times we had fried chicken. Also, funny note, when we came back, the next Sunday was a dinner on the grounds here, and you remember what the menu was? Fried chicken. They blame me for that. What's that? Ours is breaded. It's a little bit different. But we had an opportunity to eat with those that came to worship that Sunday morning and have a fellowship meal afterwards. And some of the older people don't speak English as much. They do know English, but don't want to speak it like the younger people do. But they do, and they're excited that we are there, and they do interact and want to engage with you. But we spent some time around the table several times that week in enjoying some different variety of foods. All right, next slide, please. I don't know how well you can see that. That's a, what, you tell us what that is, Greg. That's a Greg sandwich. It's not really called that down there. It might be now. But that's a breakfast sandwich, and Greg got hooked on these. There's a little bakery down the mountain where the church is, and every morning we'd call in for breakfast and grab that. You know what I'm talking about, Pastor Wade's. This is one of his delicacies when he goes. It's, what is it, cheese, egg, bacon, and it's the sweet bread that they make it in. Now, it is delicious. It's very delicious. A couple things I learned on this trip. This is my third time down, and you always are learning things. I'm not a great Spanish speaker, but the word for bacon in Spanish is tocino. You know what they call it down there? Bacon. They don't use the Spanish word. It is bacon. And so I learned by day 3 that I was asking for something in a word that they don't use. It is truly Spanglish. And so we want the bacon, egg, cheese sandwich. They know what we're talking about. That was maybe one of the top reasons Greg wants to go back. Maybe. Next picture, please, Jose. Okay. Right in the middle of our group here is the young lady I was mentioning a minute ago in the service. Her name is Mirelli. Mirelli is a single mom with 3 younger children. That's her youngest right there, her little boy. When I was preparing several weeks before and keeping up to date with Pastor Jorge, his heart was seeking the Lord. What exactly is the Lord going to have our team do? A team last week was just down there and doing VBS with them. We went early in the beginning of summer. We were the first team this year, so Vacation Bible School was not for us. We were doing some things that would prep and help for the teams that would come after us. Nor were we the last team like we were 2 years ago getting ready for school and handing out school supplies and doing some of the outreach that we did at the school last time. So he was praying even up until the time that we came that weekend, Lord, direct exactly what it should be. Mirelli was the one who he was interviewing in the Sunday morning worship time, and as she was sharing what God had done through one church in her hearing the gospel and responding, it was a very heartfelt testimony that she shared. One of the strengths that she shared is being surrounded by her church family there to support her. At the time when we arrived, she was still living with her mom in another city from where she worked, which was another city from where the church is. She had found housing, but couldn't get into it yet till probably August is what she was thinking, because of the work that needed to be done in the house. And then she had to work during the daytime as well. And as the day transpired on Sunday, Jorge had more clarity, and we were going to help an older gentleman, not part of the church, and he said, we're changing plans. We're not going to do that. We're going to go and help Mirelli with her apartment and getting that ready so that she can move in, because it's a more urgent need, and she belongs to one church, and we want to take care of her. So for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we drove a different precarious route. I thought going to Cedra was precarious. I think this one ties or is worse because there's nothing flat in the whole, well, maybe the runway at the airport. Nothing else is flat in Puerto Rico. It's all hills. If you've been in the Caribbean, you know these little island countries. It's all that. And they don't believe in a minimum or maximum grade for steepness. They just put it there and hope you can make it. There are some steep hills to climb. And we were on top of multiple mountains on Monday going to collect some of her items to take to where her place would be, also picking up paint and other supplies to be able to do the work in her apartment. And the team did so, just threw everything into it. And in those 3 days, we were able to paint, to move in her washer and dryer, do some electrical work, have the best tasting fruit ever. We stopped on Monday by a roadside fruit stand and got some watermelon, some pineapple, some bananas. Now, Scott Whitson, he's our resident world traveler. Scott has been to Hawaii. Scott has had pineapple from Hawaii. And you, I believe, said, Scott, that this was even better than what you've tasted in Hawaii. So you've got the Greg sandwich and the Puerto Rican pineapple for your palate, if that's not a reason enough to go. But the team worked hard, and by the end of Wednesday, she came and met us. This is at the end, all the painting completed, and was just in tears saying, I didn't think this would be possible until August, and this is such a blessing to be able to have this. The church was also helping get some mattresses. We had moved other furniture in, but the church themselves were doing some mattresses to be able to help get them moved in. You'll see videos of more of that work coming up. That was the bulk of what we did that week in working for this particular lady from the church. Next slide, please. I forget what I put up there. Okay, a lot of great fruit. So that's a papaya, right? On the left. That was there on the church grounds, and I think Jasmine, did you pick that and go and make that? It was really good papaya. So that was, a benefit of being right there on the church property. The bananas was en route, I think, to Cedra on Sunday afternoon when we went into town to go to shopping. So we didn't pick any of those, I don't believe, but there's abundance of fruit down there. It's beautiful. Just wanted to share that. All right, next one, please, Jose. A couple other of the events that took place that week. Jorge had this idea. You have to understand this. When you grow up in this little town, you know everybody. It's not that big of a town, even though there's a lot of neighborhoods throughout that whole area. You know everybody, and everybody knows you. And so they know who Jorge is. They know about the church. Not everybody, obviously, is supportive of that and his conservative values that he will preach. But they know who he is, and there's a respect for him and what he's doing. On Wednesday night and Thursday night, he did this prayer drive-through. And the idea was this is a kind of heavily trafficked road. They had several people, and we participated on the Thursday night one. We couldn't on Wednesday. We had signs saying, we want to pray for you. Jesus loves you. Signs to invite people over. And he had several of his church members out there, and they were in vests, and it was in pretty well-lit area. And several would come in and be prayed for. Not only was this important for the people that stopped and were prayed for, but this was also important for several of the One Church members, those that are growing. He's training several as they are looking to become deacons and continue to serve and teach and preach for Pastor Jorge when the time is needed. And so he's investing in his people in that way. One of the gentlemen further up behind where this picture was taken, he lives in Cedra, and his family are not believers. And somebody had stopped and he prayed with him, and it was a buddy of his that he grew up with that is a believer, but it was such an encouragement to him to be able to pray for this friend and to be able to support one another in their faith in this way. And a lot of people stopped. There were some motorcyclists the night before that were going by fast, and he flagged them over, and they pulled over. He got to spend about 30 minutes with them, because it's not just praying, but Jorge and Wade are very similar. We call Jorge the Puerto Rican Wade in some, not everything, but in a lot of things. One of the things that they'll do, and if you ever engaged in a conversation with Pastor Wade, it's not surface. He will probe with questions and get to the root of the matter, or encourage you and point you in that way. So Jorge didn't just pray. He said, before I pray for you, let me ask you something. And then begins the gospel conversations. So sowing the seeds of the gospel through an opportunity to pray and encourage believers and unbelievers was a big part of these 2 nights. And he was encouraged by what took place in that way. What's next, Jose? The last event we did before we had to not sleep and fly early in the morning, because we had an early flight out, we did a movie night, and that was in the original place where One Church started. When they came in 2017 and were seeking to go back, they were in this neighborhood that has a lot of kids, a lot of people, and that's where they launched. The building that you see in the background was where they met. He still has a great relationship with this neighborhood. They do a VBS just for this neighborhood because there's so many children right there. And this is in Rio. And we set up the movie screen. We had Sydney and Jasmine do their magic because we couldn't connect the new Bluetooth sound system to it, and they figured it out. And so we had others making popcorn and presenting, and you'll see video again of some of this. This was the final activity that we did. A lot of One Church came out. This was the Friday night. Our team was there. And then we went back and got about half hour of sleep and packed up to head to the airport. Maybe a little more than half hour. There wasn't a lot of sleep. But that was an important night. Again, more seed sowing, more of a presence again of One Church back where they started. They're doing, I don't know if they just did the VBS there or they're about to for the summer. But a really neat opportunity to be there. Is that my last slide? Okay, there's a different angle looking as he's getting ready to start and some of the people that had showed up already and getting them hyped up and ready to go for watching the movie. I think that might be it. Okay, perfect. That's kind of a snapshot of the week and some of the things that we did. So hopefully as we watch the video now in just a moment, it'll start to make a little more sense of what took place. Team all contributed in the pictures to the video. Shelby put this together, and so she did a good job with that. We're going to set the lights a little bit lower so it's easier to watch the video, and then we'll play it. It's about 10 minutes long or so. When we come back after the video, we will do some individual sharing and then some question and answer time.
Jesús dice estas palabras: vengan a mí todos los que estén cargados y trabajados, cansados.
So when Jesus is saying, come to me all those who are weary and tired,
Era un tiempo en donde, un tiempo muy religioso, y las personas trataban de agradar a Dios o ganar el favor de Dios por medio de cumplir su ley.
it was a time of very religious people, and people were trying to please God through doing good deeds or fulfilling the law.
Pero nuevamente en sus almas se encontraban vacíos y sin descanso,
But again, their souls were empty and without rest,
porque estaban tratando de llenar un vaso que tenía el fondo roto.
because they were trying to fill a cup that was bottomless.
Y para todos esos que estaban intentando buscar a Dios,
And for all of those who were trying to seek God,
Jesús les dice, vengan a mí.
Jesus tells them, come to me.
Ciao. Get with the- Better, yeah. Venga. Venga. Venga.
That's a real short taste of a full week. God was really good to us. I'm going to take the next little bit of time and welcome any of the team members who want to share some specific things from the trip. And after that, we'll do some question answer time if you have specific questions that we will try to answer before we wrap up the night. So I will hand it off to the team member. Not everybody at once go. Oh, we're playing this game. I see. Thank you, Scott.
So it was real evident to me that while we were there, that the one church is definitely reaching out to the community and having an effect and on that community. The activity where we went out. Oh, can you not hear me? I'm sorry. I told not to hold it down here either. The activity where we went out on the evening and we were going to pray with the locals. I was a little skeptic about it at first, just praying on the side of the road with people. But, we had signs and, I was holding the sign up to my mouth and yelling at the cars as they're going by because I've seen that used. I'm sorry, I'm seeing that used here. I'm joking. I didn't do that. But there was at one point where these 4 motorcycles went by, and they were, I don't know, high school, teenage, young men, and, they're all dressed up in the motorcycle garb, and the last guy, he's doing a wheelie as he's going by us and whatnot, and I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of brave, I guess, but about 5 minutes later, they came back, and I thought, oh, and they stopped, and they stopped down by Jorge's wife, and so she was down there talking to him, and I thought, well, got 4 motorcycle people down there, maybe in case there's some nefarious activity, maybe I should head down that way, just in case. So I did, and as I walked down there, she's sharing the Lord with them, and they're actively listening and interested. And as it turns out, there was 2 of them had gone to their VBS, or they call them BBS, right? Yeah, to their programs a couple years before, and so they stopped and talked with them and prayed with them, and I just thought that was wonderful. One, it shows that they are reaching out to them and having an impact on them, and so. But other than that, it was great getting to know the team and work with the team, and I think, as Nathan said, we were really blessed. So, thanks.
Scott was our resident electrician on the trip, and I was his sidekick, ready with a 2x4. So he did good. We had to do a few electrical things in Mirelli's apartment. Good, thank you, Scott. Who else?
I have had the opportunity to go on quite a few different mission trips. Back in 2003, I was leading a team that went to Mexico, and it's kind of this role reversal because Nathan was a leader here and I was a leader back then. But on that trip, it was kind of neat because it was Nathan and Colette and my wife Karen and our daughter Bethany, and Shelby was on that trip too, but she was in utero. But so it's really great to be on a trip with other family members too. This time, of course, it was Shelby, Julia, and Nathan. But it was a great trip. All mission trips are great. I mean, one of the best things what Scott already mentioned is you really get to know the people that you go on a trip with. And it's just neat to see them in everyday activities, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but mainly good. But it was, and to see Jorge and Rebecca's heart for the people was just, I mean, it's just really heartwarming. What a ministry they have there. And again, some of the things are kind of awkward. I agree with Scott. Holding these signs up, we'll pray with you, etc. I kind of reminded me of the people of Pensacola Bible Institute on the intersections here in Pensacola. But we didn't we didn't yell or anything. It was totally different atmosphere, but it was unique. And we handed out sandwiches on Friday, yeah. And we made sandwiches back at church and handed them out. And that would never work here. In America, you try to give somebody a bag full of sandwiches, they think, well, hey, what's in there, you know? But in that culture, it really worked well, and the people were very appreciative, and it was just a great trip. It was a good team. We had it was just well, one thing I have to mention, at the place where we were staying, we stayed at the church on these air mattresses, and I felt kind of guilty because I looked in there one morning and everybody else was already gone, and mine was the only bed not made. I said, oh, brother. So I had to go back and make it. I thought I was back in college. I hate to admit it, but when I was in college, I never made my bed one time. But anyway, but it was a really good trip, and Christy did a great job driving too. I was a little bit skeptical. I said, I don't want to drive, but Christy did great. I mean, she was really good. But anyway, it was a great trip. If you ever get the opportunity, I would recommend going on a mission trip. I mean, it's always a great time. You get more of a blessing yourself than the people you serve. It's always been the same way with every trip, but it was great. I appreciate the church giving us the opportunity to go there.
My grandkids, do not follow your grandfather's example. Please make your beds. Thank you. My kids, you know what I mean. I'm getting old. At least I can see when my contacts are in. It was unique to have several family members on the trip, and a real blessing. Skylar got to go the last time, couldn't go this time with us. Shelby, you want to talk? Come on.
Hello, everyone. Oh, that's weird. So I just wanted to share some highlights. So one of the biggest highlights for me was we were eating lunch before we went over to meet Ellie's apartment, I think for the first time, so that would have been on Monday. And she just started sharing her testimony with me, and I'd heard some of it when Jorge was interviewing her during the service, but it was a really incredible testimony. I was very humbled that she was even telling me about it, because she's being very vulnerable and open. But I was also super thankful and encouraged because I was able to hear what amazing things God was doing in her life. So that was probably the biggest highlight, was that moment with her and just helping her get her apartment ready so she can move in. She was able to move in, I think, the week after we left. So that was really great. And then I have a few funnies. Can I tell the pigeon story? Okay, so in the video you might have noticed there was a video or a clip of Christy getting out of the van and doing something and then coming back in. There was a pigeon on the road that wouldn't move even when she honked the horn. So I was very thankful to her. She got out and shooed it away, and we stopped traffic as well. So I was very thankful because I would have cried if she had run over the pigeon. And then, I saw a peacock. We were driving, it was Wednesday, we were coming back from, or no, maybe it was Thursday. We were coming back from El Yunque. I don't know what day it was. Thursday, we were coming back from the beaches or something, and we were going up, we went through the back roads, even more mountains than we usually do. And we were going up this super steep mountain, and I look over to my left, and in a driveway to a house, I just see a peacock, and I was like, wow, I didn't know they had those here. So that was fun. And then, I guess my last funny. So Sebastian is the son of Jorge. Many of you might have met him when they were here visiting last year, or the year before. Yeah, the year before. And I've known Seba since I went down in 24. 23. I thought 23 was, okay. In 23, and I know some Spanish, so I've spoken to Seba and Sophie, his sister, in Spanish several times. But on this trip in particular, I said something in Spanish. He goes, "You speak Spanish?" I was like, "Seba, I've been speaking Spanish to you for ages. So then he was like, all right, I'll help you learn. So that was fun, and that's all I have.
I know, right? So this is my second time getting to go. It was a really good trip. The first time was different, and this time I was really concerned because, as Nathan mentioned, Jorge didn't really explain what he was wanting us to do when we were coming, and so I was like, okay, God, what do you have us doing? We've got 10 people, and I like to know what I'm doing all the time. And I have realized after 2 trips that I am very much a American Puerto Rican and not an island Puerto Rican, because of the culture there and the laid back nature of everything. Drove me crazy. But other than that, God really showed up, and I actually, because anytime there's anything that has to do remotely with a child, I'm going to gravitate towards that and leave the grown-ups to everybody else. And so during the service, Mariles, her son is Katie bar the door type of child, just really wild and was being very distracting. And so I kind of swooped him up and took him to the back and the nursery area and kind of kept him. So I missed her testimony. I had no idea about what was going on or what was happening. And so I was back there with her 2 children, and Jasmine was back there with me as well. And we were kind of like trying to keep them contained so that mom could do her thing. And so I didn't really get to hear her testimony in the service. And then after service, when we ate with the other groups, I was like, okay, I was still, not knowing what was going on. And then it was Rebecca that noticed, had listened to her testimony, what was going on, and her need, and actually brought it to Jorge and said, hey, this is something that we could actually do now that could, really have an impactful moment. And it was, and then she shared with me part of her story, and then I got a moment to sit with Mireli and really chat with her, and she opened up about the domestic violence situation that she had experienced here while she was in the States. She had left everything behind in the island, and came to the States thinking that she was going to be able to have a better life and provide a better life for her and her family and her children. And her husband was not fantastic, and neither were her in-laws. And she was put through a horrible, horrible situation where she was basically held in a basement and not really allowed to do much. And so she escaped and went back home, and then moved in with her mother and her family. And due to a difference in faith, because Mireli was going to a Baptist church and her mother didn't agree with that, she was dealing with more hardship and alienation and threats and different things. And so it was just one thing after another for this poor woman and her 3 children. And one church just came in and supported her and loved on her and gave her hope. And then we got to come in and be the hands for God to move in her life and to get that house ready. I had no idea that I was going to be standing on cabinets, painting and cleaning, and all the things that we did, and they did electrical, and we got that house ready. And all that was left when we were done was for the church to go and buy her the mattresses. They were going to surprise her by gifting her mattresses so that she and her children could actually have beds to sleep on, because when they were here in the States, they were sleeping on the floor. So yeah, God kind of took my need for a plan and said, take that, young lady. You don't really need to know everything that I have planned for you. And it ended up being one of the most rewarding experiences, listening to her share her story. And then when she came on Wednesday and was just crying and was talking about how this kind of just accelerated her freedom, and she went from thinking she was going to have to endure the hardships of her mother's tongue for the entire summer to the very next week getting to get away and take her kids out of that situation and be independent and working hard. You know, she had a job, she was working hard, and 3 kids, and she just, yeah, she just got it all together, and it was fantastic to be able to be there and take a part in that. I don't think that I anticipated that, you know, how much difference we could make just by cleaning and painting and organizing, but it was amazing. And the other things were good. The driving wasn't fantastic. You know, 15 passenger vans on very narrow mountain roads with people that don't slow down, and potholes and animals. Yes, there were pigeons, there was dogs, there was cats, there was everything that you could think of get in the way in the roads. But we survived and capped it off with the movie night, which was fun. I don't know if the team knew, but that was actually a Section 8 housing area that one church had started in, and so just another community that's in need, and to watch how much that church has had an impact and how familiar they are with them, and just comfortable in creating that community. It's very different. People live outside as much as inside, and you know, here in the States, we all have our fences and our doors, and we kind of stay in our own little spaces, and it's very different over there. And I too was a little anxious with the whole standing on the side of the road holding the sign and wondering if people were going to pull up, you know, and I was uncomfortable as well. I'm not someone that's going to want to pray with a stranger just off the bat, but watching the people work, and that it worked, you know, the handing out of the sandwiches, and just thinking about how that wouldn't fly here, like Frank mentioned. It was just it was interesting, the cultural differences, and further getting to see, you know, things that my mom and my family have talked about, you know, the differences, and living in New York and then coming from the island, and just getting to connect those dots was a really amazing opportunity. And so I thank you guys for letting me go again. Hopefully I'll get another opportunity to go. Who knows what God will have in store for us the next time we go. Hopefully no more pigeons in the roads. That wasn't a favorite. And yeah, just, you know, thank you again. This church is so wonderful in supporting us and making it to where we could go and do this. You know, I've been on mission trips before, and the financial component of it, and not having to worry about that, is amazing. I've never been in a church where that was a possibility. And so the fact that this church does that regularly is just ridiculously awesome. You know, it's not something that most people get to experience. And so you really did open up an opportunity for a lot. I loved that I had like my fabulous 4 young ladies that were with us and kept me remembering that I have to act young and keep up with them. And it was wonderful. And I don't know if all 4 of them would have been able to come if you guys hadn't have done that. And so I just want to thank you for that. And I pray that you guys will consider, if you are on the fence, maybe you want to go next time. We will have a good time. You will survive. It's a part of the United States, so you don't need a passport. And they do speak English. The older people don't, but a lot of the younger people do. And yeah, it's a nice soft launch into mission work, because, you know, we're technically still part of the same country, but those people do have needs, and are really appreciative, and that goes a long way. So thank you.
Thanks, Christy, for also just sharing more about Mirelli and some of the particulars. That it was unique to be a part of a very specific need in that way, and words only do so much without being there and seeing that. But we all could see, even without knowing and having full conversations, how special that was for that time. Greg, come on up.
So, so Nathan, before we went, he said, "Hey, you need to document what we do." So every day, I kind of had a little heading in my notes, and just each day took notes about different observations. But a couple things that touched me was Sunday, Jorge preached on Exodus 20, verse 8 through 11, which the message was about rest, and which was very appropriate because we sure needed some rest after Saturday, and remembering the Sabbath day. And I take notes. I'm just always been a note taker, and I'm kind of all over the place with my notes. And I'm taking notes in my journal, and he referenced Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. And I look over on the bottom of my notes, and I've got Bible verses on the bottom of my journal, and it was Matthew 11, verse 28. And I was like, we were meant to be here. Lisa and I were a little apprehensive about going. Nathan encouraged us, and it was really awesome. Jorge and Rebecca, what a great team. And we've talked a lot about Mireles and her story and her testimony. Well, as they were up there, as Jorge was interviewing her, and they were sitting in chairs, just up on the stage, and he was talking to her, and they were talking in Spanish. And so I looked over, and Scott has his phone on, and he's got the translator app, and I'm going, hey, how do you get that? You show me that. So he shows me on my phone, and my phone starts picking up some of what she's saying and what Jorge's saying. And I mean, I'm sitting there like just about to bawl like a baby listening to her story because it was so touching. That was one thing that was very impactful to me. I think that Friday night, the movie night, when Jorge prayed with the kids, and again, he prayed in Spanish, and I can understand a little bit of Spanish, but just listening to it was so sweet and touching, and you could tell that there was a connection there. And then Lisa was showing Morellis back in her house, back in her apartment. She had an idea for her to like rearrange her furniture or whatever. And Morellis got back there and was talking to Lisa, and they were back there talking, and I was kind of over there in the corner wrapping things up, and they were talking. Next thing I know, Morellis is crying, Lisa's crying, they're hugging each other, and I'm going, man, hey, I got to get out of here. I got to get up here to where the guy's at, So it was an awesome trip. I mean, we went from day and night. It was awesome. I learned a lot about just having to take that moment and live in that moment. But it was really a great trip. I really appreciate the church for letting us be able to do it, and we're making a difference down there. I think Rebecca and Jorge, what a great team. So, thank you.
Greg may have broken rank. He's a retired Lowe's guy. There are no Lowe's stores on the island, but they got a lot of Home Depot stores. And so the tool shed at one church has a lot of buckets to carry tools in their Home Depot buckets. And Greg may have had to carry one or two Home Depot buckets. So under duress, obviously, if anybody from Lowe's is watching, he had no other options. He talked about going down there and starting a Lowe's. I think it was our conversation on the way back. Maybe not. Any others from the team want to share before we take some Q&A? You've heard from half our team, and they would all say the same thing. First of all, thank you for sending us and letting us be an extension of you, serving down there. Thank you for your prayers and continuing to support us in that way. This is, if you want to go back and rewatch, or we'll post the video just alone in a little bit as well, so you can see that and reference that again. But we were blessed to be able to go and serve alongside of one church, and there's a lot happening down there. So continue to pray for them and the work that God's doing down there. We want to take a few minutes before we end tonight. If you have some questions that we can try to answer for a Q&A before we wrap up tonight. So now is the time. If you've got a question, even from the team, if you have a question. Yes, sir. The question is, how did I get Christy to drive? The answer to that is she was humble and gracious. She drove some on the last trip, although we had 2 mirrors on the van on the last trip, only 1 this time, and she still drove. So I did something to my shoulder right before, like a week before the trip, and it's, I think, getting better. I don't know. I need to get it checked out. But during this mountain driving, and it's not rotator cuff, because Dad did all this stuff. He said it's not rotator cuff. I don't know what it is, but this motion wasn't good. It's better now. And by the end of Wednesday, I would just hurt every day. And so I begged Christine to drive on Thursday, and she said yes. So thank you for driving. That, you have to have an injury, Wade. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I can't help you. I will pray for you, though, about that. Questions? This was our 3rd trip down there. We didn't get to go last summer. This was our 3rd team trip down there. And we probably had 20, 25 people from East Brent go at some point. Yes, ma'am, Jeanette. The question is, how are the numbers of children? So it's an interesting question. He was excited. The week before we went, he was saying, God's really doing something. He's been there for a time, and it's slow growth time. But he said, God's sending people. And then that Sunday, a lot of people weren't there. He's like, I don't know whether, I'm like, it's summer, I get it. They've got a lot of kids. It's real hit and miss. They're able to get into the schools and do a lot of partnership with some of the schools there in Comarillo and in Cedra. And so it may not necessarily be on the campus that they do a lot, but there's a lot of interaction by extension. But there are a lot of families there with children and younger children. And so as they're able to fill the positions to teach and lead, and as they have families that are able to handle that, they incorporate that. Yeah. Did I see another hand over here before Jeanette? Okay. Tell them their news. Oh, yeah. So Sebastian and Sophia, cute kids. You may have remembered them 2 years ago when they came. Jorge and Rebecca are expecting a little girl at the very end of the year, I believe, or first of the next year. And so God's growing their family. They're really excited about that. They found out just before the trip about that. So another thing to be praying for them. Skylar. Yeah, so the question is, on the last trip, we did some work in a nearby city called Cedra for potential church plant. And what's the update on that is the question. He continues to do work there with outreach in the schools and Vacation Bible School. He has 2 men right now that he's training with each week and has given opportunity to preach. He's got some other men he's training for diaconal work to become deacons and serve in that way, so that he's able, his thinking is that he can hand off the preaching and pastoring of one church in Comarillo, so he can go to one church, Cedra, That's kind of where he's at, but it's still in the works of that. So still a lot of seed planting to do that, but not time to launch yet. Did we do any missions in Cedra? Only shopping in the Walmart. Yeah. No, but they'll have VBS down there in Cedra and work with the school for back to school like they've been doing. Yep. Anything else? I'm trying to think if there was any other activity or events that happened while we were down there. It was warm, but not as hot as here. The Saharan dust was a thing down there. You could see that from the tops of the mountains we were on. Maisie has a question. Oh, yeah, they've got, one of their strengths, they've got the well there on the property, which is a blessing when the water down in the town is not able to be used, and so people come there. But all the area had been cleared out right before we got there because it was really high grass, so they were bulldozing and getting all that cleared out. Well, the guys hit a water line, so we had water from the well, but it wasn't running to the church, so they had lots of plumbing supplies, and we did a quick 20-minute investigation and fix and got the water back on. So it was good. Life on a mission trip. All right, last call. Well, very good. Like I said, we'll post the video so you can watch again just the specific, instead of having to scroll through on the recording tonight. But thank you for being here and supporting and hearing us. Continue to pray for them. We'll continue to give updates for what's happening. And like Dad and others mentioned, if you have a desire, maybe this is one of those trips where the Lord would send you on that way. You don't have to go to Puerto Rico to share the gospel. We are called to do that right here at home as well. So continue to shine the light and be faithful here and continue to point others to Jesus. Thank you, team, for sharing and for serving so well. And it was exciting. It doesn't seem like a month ago, but it was. So not too far away. Would you stand with me? And we're going to close in a word of prayer tonight as we end and give God the praise for what he's done. Let's pray. Father, we are grateful for your provision for us to be able to be used in this way. Thank you for East Brent Baptist Church, for the blessing that you have been put upon East Brent these many, many years, serving, shining the light of Christ, sending teams to go overseas and proclaim Christ. Would you continue to bless us to be able to do that work? And may we be faithful here at home to share Christ. Even the seeds that were planted this last week in VBS, through the gospel, through the teaching of your word, would you grow those seeds that it would produce spiritual fruit and raise up young men and women to continue to lead and to point others to Jesus. Bless one church, bless Jorge and Rebecca, this new little baby growing. Would you continue to give Rebecca health? Would you bless Mireles and her children as they continue to work through the difficulties in the last several years? Thank you for providing a church family for her to be able to be encouraged in the Lord and to grow. Bless our time as we depart tonight, as we are on mission this week. Those that are recovering from illness, would you encourage their hearts? Would you help us to do what you've called us to do as the body of Christ for one another? Bless our week, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.